A woman bathes with a desiccated mummy in her arms, and soon, the corpse opens its eyes. Pandora looks tenderly at her husband nestled in her arms, having waited 1,000 years for this moment. The awakened man approaches Jenny, and as he slowly raises his hands, a surge of energy flows into Jenny's body. It turns out that the red crystal Jenny had absorbed was actually one of the man's eyes left behind a millennium ago, and now he is desperately thirsty to reclaim its power. However, Pandora steps in to stop him. Jenny is just a mortal, and any slight mishap could cause her body to explode, scattering the power into the air. To fully reclaim this power, the man reluctantly agrees to heed Pandora's advice. Meanwhile, Ichabod and his companions are searching nearby for Jenny, drawn by a glow emanating from the riverbank. But by the time they arrive, all that's left is a scorched patch of earth. Ichabod finds a tattered cloth in the ashes, and the message it bears informs them that the creature that kidnapped Jenny is no ordinary monster.
God.
They return to the archives, where they discover from mythological records that Pandora's lover is known as the Hidden One. The Hidden One possesses a gem representing supreme power, known as the Eye of Providence. From a message Jenny left on the wall, they learn that if the Hidden One successfully merges with the Eye, the world will be reshuffled. To find a way to control the Eye of Providence, they sneak into the university's basement. There, they find a thesis about the Eye of Providence, written 200 years ago by Benjamin. At that time, Washington was given a scepter on the battlefield that contained enough power to change the outcome of the war. The curious boy reached out and touched the gemstone, which instantly turned to powder and fused with it. But soon after, the Eye of Providence bursts the boy's body apart, and after the surrounding energy dissipates, they use the staff to contain the Eye of Providence again. To prevent the Eye of Providence from falling into the wrong hands, Benjamin melts down the staff and turns it into a vessel to control the power of the Eye of Providence. Now, if they can find this vessel, they can extract the Eye of Providence from Jenny's body. After seeing the shape of the vessel drawn in the thesis, Joe says he has seen it before. It is currently in the police station storage room. Abbie then goes there to retrieve the vessel. At this moment, the Hidden One continues to draw power from Jenny. Ichabod and the others rushed over as soon as they got the container. Joe, armed with a heavy machine gun, covers from the perimeter, while Abbie and Ichabod sneak into the depths of the ancient palace. But as soon as Abbie and Ichabod enter, Pandora detects their presence and teleports directly in front of Abbie. Abbie doesn't hesitate and begins to fire at Pandora, and when she sees her weapon doesn't harm Pandora, she signals Joe to launch 2 concussion grenades. Taking advantage of Pandora being dazzled, Ichabod suddenly appears and uses an electric gun to stun Pandora. Then, Abbie faces the Hidden One. Before he can react, she throws a grenade at his feet. Abbie quickly runs to Jenny's side and starts extracting the Eye of Providence with the vessel. Meanwhile, Ichabod is attempting to summon monsters using a magical box, but Pandora quickly recites a spell to stop him, leading to a standoff. However, Abbie's situation is not going smoothly, as the Hidden One quickly recovers from his stun and crushes the only vessel. Fortunately, Joe rushes in at this moment. Although his shock grenade doesn't hurt the Hidden One, it successfully distracts him. Seizing the opportunity, Abbie quickly picks up the fragments and continues to extract the power from Jenny's body. But because the vessel is now broken, the fragments in her hands become unstable after absorbing the Eye of Providence's power. Realizing they are about to explode, Abbie looks towards a magical tree nearby.
I have to do this. Abbie. It's the only way that I can save you.
Turned.
Take care of each other.
A worker was just about to head home after work when suddenly the stone statue behind him came to life. The next morning, the police sealed off the area, but the wounds on the body puzzled them greatly. The medical examiner concluded that the victim's injuries were caused by hitting a wall during a fall, but Sophie didn't agree. She went straight to the archives to find Ichabod. Ichabod is now in an out-of-body state, determined to find Abbie, who had been taken by the Eye of Providence. He had resorted to this forbidden technique. With no other choice, Sophie brought Jenny and Joe to the crime scene. Although they lacked Ichabod and Abbie's extensive experience, Jenny had learned much from their time together. Since the building's statues were gargoyles, they returned to the archives to research these creatures. In a French general's will, they learned that gargoyles had also come to life during the Revolutionary War, forcing them to flee into a cathedral. But the document didn't detail what happened next. As night fell, the gargoyles came to life again from the statues. With no other options, Jenny and her group grabbed nearby hammers to fight. Sophie fired several shots, but they did no damage to the gargoyles. At Jenny's suggestion, they took refuge in the church. The generals had mentioned that gargoyles couldn't enter holy ground, so Jenny believed there must be something within the church that could harm them. The first thing Jenny thought of was the holy water used by priests. Sophie immediately dismissed Jenny's idea, pointing out that the gargoyles were made of stone and questioning whether a few drops of water could shatter them. Sophie then proposed a better idea. If they couldn't turn the gargoyles back to stone with magic, they would trap them in cement using a mixer. After some arguing, they eventually agreed to Sophie's plan. They carefully left the church, with Sophie going to the truck to start the mixer, while Jenny and Joe distracted the gargoyles. Once they lured the gargoyles into a pre-arranged box, Joe opened the cement spraying hose, and the gargoyle's body quickly stiffened. As more cement filled the box, the gargoyle was soon completely submerged. With the situation in the real world resolved, Abbie's existence in the other world was incredibly dull. Since waking up, she had found herself in a desolate mausoleum devoid of life. But Abbie hadn't given up on escaping. She explored the surrounding terrain every day and recorded it with a chart stick. The only thing she found was a rusty short sword. As time passed, Abbie's spirits began to change. One day, while playing chess by herself, she suddenly heard Ichabod's voice. Initially, Abbie thought she was hallucinating, but when a blurred figure appeared before her, she realized it was Ichabod, whom she had longed to see. At this moment, Ichabod appeared in spirit form. Although they missed each other dearly, their main concern was finding a way out. On the cave wall were a series of Sumerian texts, and Ichabod, deciphering the puzzle, learned that the Eye of Providence on the staff was the key to opening a portal between worlds. Abbie had arrived here through the Eye of Providence. Now, all they needed to do was activate the Eye of Providence to return to the real world. Just then, Ichabod noticed the rusty short sword, which had once belonged to his good friend Betsy. As Ichabod spoke, Pandora's spirit appeared, seeking to reclaim the Eye of Providence. She offered to teach Abbie how to activate the Eye of Providence and open the portal if Abbie agreed to return it after escaping. Ichabod immediately rejected Pandora's offer. Abbie also smirked mockingly, noting that if the Eye of Providence fell into the Hidden One's hands again, even if she managed to escape, the real world would become a living hell. To force Abbie to hand over the Eye of Providence, Pandora used a soul sword to sever Ichabod's connection to the outside world. Without the soul tether, Ichabod's spirit would be trapped here forever. Seeing this, tears instantly streamed down Abbie's face. In anger, she picked up a rock and smashed the Eye of Providence, with the key to opening the portal destroyed.
You despicable creature.
You enjoy that superiority while you rot in this prison for all eternity!
Abbie's life once again became dull, and she began talking to the air. But when Abbie noticed the short sword lying on the rock, she immediately thought of a possibility. Since Betsy's belongings were here, it meant she had also been brought to this place. According to stories Ichabod had shared, Betsy had not died in this mausoleum, so there must be another exit. Abbie immediately went to the location where she had discovered the short sword. Beside a tree stump, she found a stone well. From the way the vines were arranged, she was fairly certain that the well was an exit. Without hesitation, Abbie grabbed the vines and jumped into the well. As fragments of memories flashed by, she quickly returned to the real world, and Ichabod's spirit also escaped from within. Following Abbie, just as a man in a car was about to forcefully assault a girl, a dark shadow suddenly shattered the car window and pulled him out with a single motion. By the time the girl got out of the car to check, the shadow had killed the man. The girl thought she had encountered a real-life hero saving her, but to her horror, the figure before her bore a withered skull head. Without uttering a word, the man then strangled the girl, killing her in the same manner right there. The next day, police officers received the alarm and rushed to the scene. By then, the two bodies had been cut into several pieces, and the only clue left at the scene was a size 48 shoe print. Based on the available clues, Abbie deduced that the murderer was a physically strong man who used an axe, and she suddenly thought of the kindred warrior, who had been missing for a long time. Abbie immediately relayed the news to Ichabod. They once again consulted Benjamin's notes. From the research documented, they learned that the kindred was a species that adhered to customs, always returning to familiar places when alone. A song called the Kindred Ballad could soothe them, but this music required a specially made glass harp by Benjamin to be played. Thus, Abbie assigned this task to Jenny and Joe. Their investigation led them to an opera house where they indeed found the unique glass harp. Meanwhile, Ichabod and Abbie returned to the place where the kindred was resurrected and found the area scattered with the belongings of the deceased. It became clear that the kindred was the murderer of the couple. Ichabod found a newspaper about housing prices on the ground, which immediately led them to a possibility.
The kindred isn't just turning evil.
He's turning human.
At the same time, the kindred targeted another couple, hurling his weapon at them, but fortunately, they dodged in time and were not hit. Sophie, passing by, quickly fired shots at the kindred, but he seemed to have no interest in her and rode away on his warhorse with his weapon. On the other hand, Ichabod and the others discovered why the kindred was killing loving couples. After reaching a certain time, the kindred developed specific personalities and emotions. The reason the kindred killed those in love was due to deep-seated jealousy, which gave rise to a destructive mentality of if I can't have it, no one can. Ichabod felt responsible for resurrecting the kindred and causing all this, so he prepared to personally put an end to the kindred. They then went to the place where the kindred was resurrected. Ichabod and Abbie set up a trap next to the coffin, while Jenny and Joe used the glass harp to attract the kindred. But just when everything was ready, Ichabod realized he had left the harp in the archives, so he quickly ran back to get it. However, as he was about to leave with the harp, his new girlfriend Zoe came looking for him, since Ichabod had been busy killing monsters lately. Zoe felt cheated by Ichabod. This left Ichabod at a loss for words. As they argued, the sky gradually darkened, and the kindred awoke in the stone coffin. Abbie quickly hid beside the coffin. The first thing the kindred did upon waking was to pick up a nearby portrait, and as he admired the person in it with a smile, a strain of music suddenly reached his ears. Joe was turning the glass harp in his hands, but just then, the kindred suddenly stopped. Zoe and Ichabod's argument disrupted the music's rhythm, and immediately, the kindred ran towards their location. Abbie and the others did not know what the kindred was planning, but when they saw the portrait that had fallen to the ground, Abbie realized that the kindred was not acting out of jealousy.
This is not just about envy and punishment. He's looking for connection. He wants a wife.
Just as Zoe and Ichabod's argument ended, the kindred had already followed the sound and arrived. Ichabod picked up a weapon to confront him, but he was no match for the kindred, who threw Ichabod out of the way in just a few moves. When Ichabod stood up again, the kindred had already left with Zoe. Watching his girlfriend being taken away, Ichabod was desperate, so he took out all of Benjamin's notes, hoping to find a weakness of the kindred. At that moment, a pattern in one of the notebooks caught Jenny's attention. It matched a decoration in the opera house where the glass harp was stored. They immediately went to the opera house. After activating a mechanism, a dust-covered box fell out from a secret chamber, containing the kindred's original wife, the Bride of Kindred. Ichabod and Abbie took the Bride of Kindred to a forest to resurrect her. Joe and his team arrived at the place where Zoe was being held, attempting to restrain the kindred with remote-controlled ropes. However, amidst the chaos, a kerosene lamp was accidentally knocked over, instantly igniting the surrounding straw. At the same time, Ichabod finished reciting the resurrection spell from the book. As the Bride of Kindred opened her white eyes, she slowly sat up from her coffin. The spiked meteor hammer in her hand clearly indicated that the Bride of Kindred was a woman with a fiery temper. Jenny and her group, with Zoe in tow, escaped from the raging fire, but the kindred also broke free from the ropes. As they fled, they encountered Ichabod rushing towards them, and the pursuing the kindred and Bride of Kindred saw each other. Their eyes instantly filled with tenderness. After a millennium of separation, they finally met. The kindred bowed deeply in a very gentlemanly manner, and the Bride of Kindred, seeing this, also bowed her head in response, and they embraced in a kiss. Finally, the kindred, holding the hand of the Bride of Kindred, left the scene together. However, unbeknownst to Ichabod and the others, the kindred's actions had angered the Hidden One, who remotely destroyed their bodies. Leeds was originally an exceptional scientist, but in his quest to merge animal traits with human characteristics, he delved into alchemy and ancient magic, using his own body as a subject for his experiments. After drinking a specially prepared potion, Leeds underwent a transformation. His pupils contracted and emitted a green glow, and his hands morphed into sharp claws. Gradually, a pair of goat horns grew from his head, and soon Leeds became a half-human, half-scorpion creature. Despite 250 years passing, Leeds survived intact in this world. Now, the Hidden One, for his own schemes, had summoned Leeds to the town of Sleepy Hollow. That day, While Abbie and her companions were dining, they suddenly received a call from the police station. 2 antique collectors had been brutally murdered at home, but strangely, their wounds differed significantly. The woman's pupils were constricted as if she'd been poisoned, while the man's body showed signs of having been torn apart by a wolf's claws. All signs pointed to the attacker being a monster with a combination of different attributes. Ichabod and Abbie began searching the area immediately. As they passed an old building, a burning fireplace inside caught Ichabod's attention. He slowly extended his hand into it and unexpectedly triggered a mechanism, revealing a hidden passage beneath the fireplace. Following the passage, they arrived at a laboratory filled with ancient equipment, though the creature was nowhere to be found. Abbie noticed a golden symbol on the table, which instantly reminded her of her time in the mausoleum. Ichabod thought it was a symbol of evil and did not inspect it further, but Abbie felt an inexplicable emotion stirring within her. From the research materials in the books, Ichabod learned that the owner of the place was named Leeds, and that Leeds was a fervent follower of the Hidden One. After the Hidden One was exiled to the underworld by other gods, Pandora remained by his side, and over time, they developed feelings for each other. Therefore, the Hidden One gifted Pandora a powerful box that contained all the evils of the world, which were derived from the power of a golden hourglass. After a long period of collection, Pandora used the power of the box to defeat the gods, and the Hidden One successfully reclaimed his position. However, due to human betrayal, the Hidden One was once again banished to the underworld, and it appeared his current plan involved recreating the golden hourglass. The reason the Hidden One gathered the monsters in Sleepy Hollow was to harness their power for his own use. Suddenly, a noise interrupted Ichabod and Abbie's discussion. It was Leeds. Now a monstrous creature, Leeds immediately swung his scorpion tail at the 2 humans who had intruded into his laboratory. Ichabod seized the opportunity and pierced Leeds's back with an iron blade. Just when they thought Leeds had died after falling to the ground, he suddenly opened his eyes the next second, and an unguarded Abbie was instantly thrown out by Leeds. Ichabod attempted to shoot, but the poison from the scorpion's tail had already invaded his body. Seeing this, Leeds did not kill them but instead took a lightning device from the laboratory. When Abbie awoke from her unconscious state, Ichabod was already writhing in pain on the ground. Fortunately, they were in a laboratory where potions were concocted. With Ichabod's step-by-step guidance, Abbie quickly prepared an antidote, but as Abbie turned to administer the antidote to Ichabod, the symbol on the table distracted her once again. Ichabod, seeing this, urgently called out Abbie's name. When she snapped out of her daze, Ichabod was barely breathing. Abbie quickly poured the antidote into his mouth. Shortly after, Ichabod woke up successfully. By then, Leeds, with the lightning device, had reached the mountaintop. He inserted the device into a large bowl filled with gold and then yelled at the sky. Ichabod and Abbie also arrived at the scene. Ichabod tried to persuade Leeds to abandon helping the Hidden One, but Leeds' mind had changed. He believed that only the Hidden One was the god of this world.
I choose him as my master. I bow as his faithful servant and bring forth the very sands of life.
As the gold in the bowl was refined into sands of life, excitement appeared on Leeds' face. Meanwhile, Abbie had stealthily hidden. When the storm in the bowl calmed, she grabbed the lightning device and attached it to Leeds. After completely dealing with Leeds, they immediately went to check the bowl, but it was empty by then. At the same time, the Hidden One summoned the golden hourglass and brought it to the magic tree. As grains of the sands of life fell from the tree, the golden hourglass swiftly collected them all.